Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories.
I've always been proud of our little neighborhood. It's the kind of place where you know your neighbors' names, where kids play in the streets until dusk, and where the biggest drama used to be who'd host the next potluck. Our HOA was as laid back as they come, just a group of homeowners trying to keep the place nice without getting too fussy about it. My wife, Wanda, even served on the board for a while. Those meetings? More like casual get-togethers with burgers and beers in someone's living room. But yesterday, everything changed. I came home from work, exhausted after a grueling day at the office. The commute had been particularly brutal, with a multi-car pileup on the highway forcing me to take a lengthy detour. As I trudged through the front door, kicking off my shoes and loosening my tie, I noticed an unusual silence in the house. Typically, Wanda would be in the living room, watching her favorite evening shows or chatting on the phone with her sister. But today, as I made my way towards the kitchen for a much-needed glass of water, I found her standing there, motionless. Wanda was rooted to the spot, her face a mask of concern and confusion. In her hands, she clutched two envelopes, their edges ragged where she had hastily torn them open. Her knuckles were white from gripping the papers so tightly, and I could see her hands trembling slightly. The kitchen light cast shadows across her face, accentuating the worry lines that had appeared around her eyes and mouth. "John," she said, her voice tight and strained. It was barely above a whisper, but in the silence of the kitchen, it might as well have been a shout. I could hear the tension in every syllable, the fear and uncertainty that seemed to radiate from her very being. Her eyes met mine, and I saw a mixture of emotions swirling in their depths: anxiety, frustration, and a touch of anger. With a slight shake in her hand, Wanda extended the envelopes towards me. "You need to see these," she continued, her tone leaving no room for argument or delay. The urgency in her voice was palpable, and I felt a knot of dread forming in the pit of my stomach. Whatever was in those envelopes, I knew instinctively that our peaceful life was about to be turned upside down. I took the letters from her, my stomach already starting to churn. The first one was from our HOA, all official looking with a letterhead I'd never seen before. As I read it, my eyebrows shot up so high I thought they might fly off my forehead. "They've hired a management company?" I sputtered. "And they're raising our fees by 80%. What the hell?" Wanda nodded grimly. "Keep reading. The second letter is even worse." I picked up the other envelope, this one from some outfit called Precision Property Management. My eyes scanned the page, and I felt my blood pressure rising with each word. "We're delinquent? A $25 late fee? Collections?" I was practically shouting now. "We've never missed a payment in our lives." Wanda put a hand on my arm, trying to calm me down. "I know. Honey, I think there's been some kind of mistake." I paced the kitchen, running my hands through my hair. "A mistake? This is more than a mistake. This is a disaster," Wanda finished for me. We spent the next hour trying to make sense of it all. From what we could piece together, the HOA board had decided to bring in this management company to deal with a few homeowners who were chronically late with their dues. But instead of just targeting the problem residents, they'd handed over control of everything to these corporate vultures. "I bet they're making a fortune off these late fees," I grumbled, making air quotes with my fingers. "Probably kicking back some of it to the board members who voted for this." Wanda shot me a look. "John, don't start with conspiracy theories. Let's just try to get this sorted out." But as the days went by, it became clear that sorting things out wasn't going to be easy. I called the number on the letter from Precision Property Management, only to be stuck on hold for an hour before being disconnected. When I finally got through to a human being, they couldn't seem to find our account in their system. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I'm not showing any record of a John and Wanda Johnson at that address," the board-sounding customer service representative told me. "But you sent us a letter," I practically shouted into the phone. "How can you not have us in your system?" "I'm sorry, sir, but without an account number, there's nothing I can do for you," she droned on. "Perhaps you could check with your HOA board?" I slammed the phone down. Fuming, Wanda looked up from her laptop, where she'd been furiously typing emails to our neighbors. "Any luck?" she asked, though she could probably guess the answer from my expression. "None," I growled. "These people are incompetent, greedy, or both." As the week wore on, we started hearing similar stories from around the neighborhood. The Petersons, who'd lived here even longer than us, got a notice that their fence was in violation of some obscure rule. A rule that hadn't existed last month. The Garcias were told their kid's treehouse had to come down immediately. And poor old Mrs. Winters, who was on a fixed income, was in tears over how she was going to afford the increased fees. It was like our quiet little community had been invaded by pod people, replaced overnight with soulless corporate drones who cared more about rules and revenue than actual human beings. The tension in the neighborhood was building. You could see it in the way people avoided eye contact when passing on the sidewalk, in the hushed conversations that stopped abruptly when someone walked by. It felt like we were all waiting for something to break. And break it did at the next HOA meeting. It was held in the community center instead of someone's living room, another sign of how things had changed. The place was packed, with people standing along the walls and spilling out into the hallway. Board President Tom Wilson, a guy the first used to consider a friend, stood at the front of the room looking nervous. Next to him was a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who I assumed must be from Precision Property Management. "Folks, please, if we could all settle down," Tom began, his voice barely audible over the angry murmur of the crowd. "I know there have been some concerns about our new management arrangement, but I assure you, this is for the best interests of our community." That's when all hell broke loose. "Best interests?" Mrs. Winda's normally soft voice rang out, trembling with anger. "How is pricing me out of my home in anyone's best interest?" "Yeah," someone else shouted. "And what about all these bogus violation notices?" The slick suit stepped forward, a practiced smile on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, please. I'm Brad Thornton from Precision Property Management. I understand change can be difficult, but I assure you," he never got to finish that sentence. The room erupted in a cacophony of angry voices, drowning out whatever smooth talk he was about to lay on us. I found myself on my feet, my own voice joining the chorus. "This is our neighborhood," I yelled. "We don't need some outside company telling us how to live." Wanda tugged at my sleeve, trying to get me to sit down, but I was too fired up. I pushed my way to the front of the room, facing down Tom and Brad. "You want to talk about best interests?" I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Let's talk about how you've turned our homes into a cash cow for this parasite of a company." Brad's smile never wavered, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Fear? Anger? I couldn't tell, but I knew I'd struck a nerve. "Sir," he said, his voice oily smooth, "I can assure you that Precision Property Management operates with the utmost integrity. Integrity." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Is that what you call sending out false delinquency notices? Inventing violations out of thin air?" The room had gone quiet now, all eyes on this confrontation. I could feel Wanda at my side, her presence both comforting and spurring me on. "We've lived here for 15 years, I continued, my voice growing stronger. "We've never had a late payment, never had a violation. And now, suddenly, we're criminals in our own home?" I turned to face the crowd, seeing nods of agreement, hearing murmurs of support. "This isn't just about me and Wanda," I said. "It's about all of us. It's about Mrs. Winters, who might lose her home. It's about the Garcias kids, who just want a place to play. It's about every one of us who chose to live here because we wanted a community, not a corporate fiefdom." The room erupted in cheers and applause. I saw Tom Wilson's face go pale, while Brad Thornton's practiced smile finally slipped. What happened next was a blur of motion and shouting. Someone called for an immediate vote to terminate the contract with Precision Property Management. Brad tried to object, citing bylaws and procedures, but he was drowned out by the crowd. In the end, it wasn't even close. The vote was nearly unanimous. Precision Property Management was out, effective immediately. Tom Wilson and the rest of the board resigned on the spot, leaving us to figure out what came next. As the meeting broke up, people lingered, talking excitedly about the future. I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to see Mrs. Winters, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, pulling me into a hug. I hugged her back, feeling a lump in my throat. "We're neighbors," I said. "It's what we do." As Wanda and I walked home that night, hand in hand, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, excitement, and a touch of apprehension about what lay ahead. "You know," Wanda said, squeezing my hand, "we're probably going to have to step up now. Help rebuild the HOA the right way." I nodded, realizing she was right. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be worth it. Because this wasn't just a neighborhood. It was our home. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. We held emergency meetings, drafted new bylaws, and elected a new board, which, despite my protests, I somehow ended up on. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Old resentments surfaced, and we had to navigate some tricky legal waters to extricate ourselves fully from precision property management. But through it all, there was a sense of community I hadn't felt in years. Neighbors who had barely spoken before were now working side by side, planning block parties and community gardens. The Garcia's treehouse became a neighborhood project, with everyone pitching in to make it safer and even cooler than before. As for Tom Wilson and the other former board members who had brought in precision property management, they kept a low profile for a while, but eventually, most of them came around. Tom even approached me at a barbecue, looking sheepish. "I really thought I was doing the right thing," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I was so focused on the few problem residents that I lost sight of what made this place special. I clapped him on the shoulder. "We all make mistakes, Tom. The important thing is we fixed it." He nodded, looking relieved. "Yeah, we did. Thanks for standing up when you did." I don't think I realized how bad things had gotten until I saw how angry everyone was. As the sun set on another perfect summer evening, I looked around at my neighbors, my friends, and felt a surge of pride. We'd faced down a threat to our way of life and come out stronger for it. Sure, we still had our share of problems. The Johnson's dog still barked too much, and someone kept stealing Mr. Peterson's newspaper. But they were our problems, and we'd handle them our way. Because that's what neighbors do. That's what community means, and no management company, no matter how slick or professional, could ever replace that. Your board members would be the ones that signed up with the service. And the service works for your HOA, as mediated by the board members. Talk to your board members and tell them you are getting demands for funds you don't owe. Your board then tells the company to waive the late fee. Of course, this all depends on what your HOA's documents say about what duties and powers your board members have. If your fees went up 80% go cover a new service, then the various owners need to talk to the board and ask why they are spending money this way. The board usually needs to present a budget to owners each year, and then owners vote to approve or deny that budget. But again, it depends on how your HOA's CC&Rs and bylaws are written. These management companies always start issuing loads more fines on their community. It is basically their job description to do it. I would never move into an HOA, but I would actively run away from an HOA that is run by one of these companies. Yep, welcome to the world of the middleman enforcer that is going to do everything possible to keep billing for their service of making your life more miserable. Pay more, get harassed more, and worry about damage to your credit report and losing your home if something comes up that disrupts your financial stability. And absolutely, overzealous enforcement brings in the cash. All they have to do is raise the penalty fee structure to a level that more than pays for a warm body running around writing violations up. It's pathetic, but so is America these days.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.